2025 of the Rhode Island State Board of Elections will be called to order. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Chairwoman Thompson,
Present.
Vice Chair Simone,
Present.
Member Bettenker, Member Pierce, Member Jack Foley,
Present.
Member McGinnis, Member Scholl,
Present.
Executive Director Miguel Nunez,
Present.
Legal Counsel Ray McCarthy.
Present.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Agenda item number 1, the board may discuss and vote to enter a contract with PCC Technology, Inc., doing business as Civics, located in Lake Mary, Florida, for the purpose of configuring a campaign finance module for the board with related software license, hosting, and maintenance services. Miguel, are we starting with you or going right to Rick?
Nope.
You want to start? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I want to briefly re-summarize for the board the campaign finance system, the current state of the campaign finance system, as well as the proposal to upgrade that system to a modernized system. Couple of the board members here were not at the meeting where I presented some of this information first, so I'll quickly summarize that presentation. As many of you know, the current ERT system, which stands for Electronic Reporting and Tracking System, was first developed in 2001 and was rolled out publicly in January of 2002. Electronic filing was initially required for just general officers, but then it was a staggered rollout and available to General Assembly and all office holders. Now, most office holders, PACs, and party committees file electronically. Actually, we're at 85%, which do file electronically. And when they do file electronically, this information is available instantly on our website to the public. Paper filed forms must be manually entered into the system by the Board of Elections staff, and this process can take days. The upgraded system will offer better usability features, which will likely increase the electronic filing participation, since it's just much easier for the end user to enter their data into the system more effectively and efficiently. Also, the 24-year-old ERT system is not able to fulfill all of the requirements that are currently mandated under state law. As an example of that, the independent expenditures, electioneering communications, and covered transfers, which are since 2012, have been required under state law to be submitted to the Board of Elections. Approximately 75 unique entities filed approximately 200 reports each year, either via email or through a third-party service, which is a document upload service. They cannot actually submit them through the ERTS system as required under state law. Under Rhode Island General Law 1727, vendor affidavits are required to be filed electronically. If a company has a state contract worth more than $5,000 and the principal of the company donates $250 or more in a calendar year, that affidavit is required to be filed. However, the current system, while some basic functionality was added in 2012, we cannot track anyone who says that they don't meet the requirements. So we only track those that say they meet the requirements. Those that say they do not, we have no tracking ability for that submission. This new system, this new platform on the upgraded system will incorporate that functionality. And also, and very importantly, is this upgraded system does conform with modern cybersecurity standards in two-factor authentication, none of which is supported by the current version of the ERT system. Now, it's important to note that the current ERT system is no longer being developed. Any changes made to the system are very expensive, time-consuming to roll out, while the upgraded platform will continue to see development and improvement, and in our system, we'll see any improvements made in other states. For users, the new platform supports important things. Obviously, a more modernized interface for entering data, but also allows them to import their transaction data through a file such as Excel and CSV, and also the uploading of supporting documents for those transactions. Communications which is non-existent in the current ERT system, can be managed so that candidates will receive automated email reminders about upcoming filing deadlines, pastor reports, or alerts about anything that the staff would like to send out a general alert about. As I mentioned previously, in the current system, users cannot even reset their password without assistance from a BOE member. So if a user is trying to get their campaign finance reports updated over a weekend, and they can't remember their password, the current system does not allow them to do that on their own. They would have to wait until Monday for a BOE staff member to do that for them. The new system also has the ability to import candidate data from the central voter registration system. Whereas the current system, it must be manually entered by the local boards, which is time-consuming and prone to human error. And the way that works is that once the declaration period is over, nomination papers have been submitted, these candidates all need to be entered into the system in order to have their accounts set up, for example. And that is several hundred at the minimum each and every election year. That has to be done manually at this point, with the local boards of canvassers actually needing to log into the ERT system and entering the data so that our campaign finance division can actually track those expenditures and these contributions. The upgraded system is upgraded towards being viewed on smartphones and as well as desktops, and the public search features are more robust than the current system. Now, at a previous meeting, we provided feedback regarding the availability of historical data prior to January 1st of 2023, because in this proposal, the data would be available integrated into the system from January 1st, 2023 and forward. Anything prior to that would be viewable in a PDF format. So all of those reports would be viewable as PDFs, static PDFs. However, we have since confirmed that there is some additional availability to that data, which in a few minutes, Rick Thornton, our Director of Campaign Finance, will be able to provide some additional insight onto some of the searchability of that data that is prior to January 1st of 2023. Now, I also want to note that in 2002, when the current ERT system that we use was first launched, it replaced what was called the Boomer system. No historical data from that previous system was imported into ERTs when the current ERT system was launched 24 years ago. And we are providing 24 years worth, but the method in which that is accessible, Rick was going to go into a little bit more detail in a moment. Now, of course, there are several reasons why the staff feels this system needs to be upgraded now. Obviously, this is a long window after a presidential election, with the next election, statewide election, not being held until September of 2026. This allows a unique opportunity that we only get every few years to be able to launch a new system seamlessly without bumping into the next election cycle. If this window of opportunity is missed, it's likely that an upgrade wouldn't be accomplished until 2029. Secondly, the age of the ERT system is a concern. Obviously, it's expensive to update. It doesn't conform to modern security and user interface standards. And there certainly is the possibility, as I've mentioned before, that the vendor could choose to stop supporting ERTs, the legacy system, which is only being supported now on a year-to-year contract basis. If that were to happen, the board would have to scramble to quickly find the replacement in order to comply with the campaign finance laws. And then finally, as you know, the board has seen a significant number of retirements in the last several years. There is a key benefit of having the current staff with decades of campaign finance system, many of whom were here, some of whom who were here when the original ERT system launched 24 years ago. And that would help facilitate the launch of a new system successfully to replace the current ERT's legacy system. If the system is not implemented prior to September of 2026, as I said, that could actually be pushed back until 2029. We won't have the benefit of the expertise of the staff, the experienced staff to assist with the rollout. Now, as you know, the board requested $250,000 in fiscal year 2026 for the implementation of this new campaign finance system. And the request was initially removed by the governor's office. And subsequently, it was not included in our fiscal year 2026 budget. However, in a new development since the last meeting, when I provided the board with an update on this new system, the House Finance Committee recently authorized $71,508 of the agency's current $500,000 budget surplus, current fiscal year surplus, to be allocated towards the upgrade of the campaign finance system in fiscal year 2026, with the remaining surplus being allocated to new electronic poll books to replace aging and end-of-life units. So that is an opportunity that the General Assembly has given us to supplement what we already have a contract with the current vendor to provide the additional funding to implement the upgrade and actually include that in our fiscal year 2027 budget request, which will be later this year, for the additional funds, annual funds that will be required to maintain the new system. Now, the staff has thoroughly reviewed this proposal, as legal counsel Marcaccio. However, upon being approved by the board, it would need, and signed by the chair, the proposal still needs the approval of the purchasing department and the Department of Administration, which will likely take several weeks to occur. And if it is approved, work on the upgrade will begin in July, with candidate training expected to begin in January of 2026, if all goes as according to schedule. And I know that there were some questions about the historical data, and I think Rick is available here to talk about that. There is a projected in our discussions what that cost would be as well, and the timeframe that it would entail. Rick?
Thank you. As Miguel indicated earlier, the historical data would go back from January of 2002 to December 31, 2022. Anything after that would be live data. The historical data would be viewable in a PDF format to both staff and to the general public. But I think what's more usable is that that same set of data will also be available in a CSV exportable format for both the public and for the agency users as well. So by providing that information or having that information available in a CSV format, users can go in, public can go in, they can search for contributions, selecting date ranges, the contribution type, donor names, employer names. For expenditures, same thing. They can select a date range. They can select a disbursement type or the payee name. So it's a very robust feature that will provide both internal users at the agency and the public with the information that they're seeking on a historical basis. So, and in terms of the additional cost to actually make the information live data going all the way back to 2002, that would add, I believe it was another $300,000 plus to the cost of the project. And I don't think that's necessary. Again, the data will be available in the CSV format, and I think that will satisfy the needs of both internal users and external users.
And I think the time frame is also key because of the vast amount of data, 24 years worth of data, that would have to be accurately imported. If that additional data was included, it would take an additional 6 months, which currently the proposal is to be done by January with the new system by January of 2026. Adding 6 months to that would push us into the declaration period of 2026. Which would not be ideal since we would like to start training on this system in early 2026. So all office holders and candidates have the ability and the knowledge to use the new system. And that in itself is a tremendous endeavor to train those 1,200, 1,300 office holders in using this new system. So delaying it by 6 months could push the project beyond what would be recommended or feasible for us to launch a new system prior to pushing into the next election cycle.
Thank you both. Questions for Rick or Miguel? Yes, sir.
Rick, you probably don't know, obviously, we don't know the answer to this because we haven't done the gap analysis yet or anything. One of the things with the historical data, I think it's important. I like the idea that you can export to CSV. That's great because it gives people a lot of options.
That's right.
And I'm happy to assist in any way because this is somewhat in my wheelhouse for my day job. So one of the things that'd be helpful is if there's some criteria, they can kind of limit what they're downloading instead of saying, oh, I want all 10 year, all 20 years. They're gonna, they could say, I'm searching for a specific person and maybe get that as a download. So something to discuss during the gap analysis
Okay.
and
That-
the user story creation.
That is available in this searchable format now. You can specify date ranges. You can designate a particular donor's name or payee's name or even employer's name if you want to search on.
That'd be helpful, yeah.
companies. So you can really drill down on the data. I'm not sure how many external users are familiar with that function right now, but we will certainly push that out there as part of a learning tool for the
Sure.
public too, so
Great.
that they know that information's still available. But I would certainly welcome your input on that.
Happy to help.
Yes.
Thank you for getting
You're
the answers to those questions.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So, Rick, once the new system comes online, so to speak,
Mhm.
the historical data will still be available through our website, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So that will it be available in the same format that it is now?
No, with the CSV format, basically you would do the search. It would be in a table format, which you can export that even to in Excel, and you can reformat it any way that you want at that point.
So do you envision it being a separate area of our website, or do you
Yes.
envision this all together?
Yes, you'll be able to, from the new system, you'll be able to link to that. There'll be a link for the historic data so it'll be seamless for someone who's using the current system.
So it'll look similar to what the Secretary of State has for corporations. There's a separate link at the bottom of the page that takes you to the historical
That's
data.
correct, yes.
And then, Miguel, now the requirements in this contract for training and operation, are they going to require any new staff for your office?
No, everything will be done with the existing staff and Rick, we clarified that with the vendor that he will be the staff, have a term for it, like
Project manager.
project manager, with regular meetings with the vendor while the upgrade is being done, but there will be no additional staff that would be necessary to conduct the
And you
upgrade.
and Rick are both comfortable with that you won't need any extra staff?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that.
Yes.
Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, if I found that I was over my head, I would certainly ask for assistance, but I think I can do it.
I just meant from a time standpoint. I
No.
know it's going to take a significant amount of your time. on
Yes, it
this,
will.
but- Okay.
Yes, Commissioner
Oh,
Schultz.
thank you. Rick, a couple of questions. Is the cost of transition to the CSV part of the contract?
Yes, that's included in the proposed pricing will be that's included in that.
So would the staff from Civics help you accomplish that?
Yes.
The other thing is, after you transition to the new program, the Civics, what will be the status of the current ERTS system? Will you still keep it, or will you abandon it?
It will be abandoned at that point. Just again, the historic data will be available, but the system itself will not be functional.
Will you keep a backup of all that in case there's a problem?
Well, that is what the historical data will provide.
Yep.
But in terms of the actual structure of the program, the platform itself will go away.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Someone wish to make a motion?
Oh, can I also be marked present? Sorry. I came
Oh,
in late.
sorry.
That's okay.
Yes.
Wanted to make sure of that for everyone watching.
Can you just note that Commissioner Bettencourt joined us and it was 4:45, I believe. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that we enter into a contract with Civic as set forth in the proposed uh, material given to us, authorize you to sign on behalf of the board, subject to the approval of Department of Administration, Purchasing.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? The ayes have it. Agenda item number 2, the board may discuss and vote to certify the L&A testing for the primary for Senate District 4 and Central Falls special elections to be held on Tuesday, July 8th, 2025.
Madam Chair, members of the board, logic and accuracy testing for the Senate 4 and Central Falls special election, which encompasses North Providence and Providence, as well as the Central Falls City Council Ward 4 special election and the citywide special referendum, began on Friday, June 13th, and was completed on the same day. And the testing was open to the public and publicly noticed. We had three ESNS staff and 3 Board of Elections staff involved in the testing. In total, 20 DS200s and 10 express votes were tested as part of this test. 2 high-speed tabulators, the DS850s, were also part of the testing. The test stack consisted of 52 total ballots, with 5 to 8 ballots being used per DS200. One of these, as typical, being one of the express vote cards. An actual total of 840 ballots were cast in total during testing. 120 ballots were cast through the early voting units, 120 ballots were cast through the election day units, and 600 ballots were run through the DS850 high-speed tabulators. No voting equipment had to be replaced during the testing. All of the ballots that were used in the testing that are part of the upcoming pilot, the upcoming ballot on demand pilot, which I had mentioned, I had presented to the board at a previous meeting. All of those ballots were printed on the no ink poll print ballot on demand printers to as closely possible simulate the real world operation of the equipment, both at the polling place, Wilfrid Manor, on election day on July 8th, as well as the early voting locations in Central Falls and North Providence leading up to July 8th. The Secretary of State's Elections Division conducted a review of the ballots and the express vote screens, and on June 12th, they did certify to us that this information is accurate as per the Board of Elections testing protocol. As part of that testing and preparation, remember that before each machine is closed and sealed, at least 2 members of our staff does confirm that the totals printed on each machine matches the expected results on the result key, and that the machine has been set to 0. Our election management system, or the EMS, is also set to 0, as reflected on the following reports in front of you. Now, as typical for these tests, ESNS has provided us with 3 reports from the testing. The title of each of these is located at the top right. The first 0 report is the pre-0 report printed prior to testing. The second report is the logic and accuracy testing results report, and shows the test results, which are compared to the voting results report before you, which shows what the results should be. Per the BOE protocol, this testing follows a 1-2-1 pattern, where the first candidate receives 1 vote, the second candidate receives 2 votes, and the third candidate receives 1 vote, etc. The total votes received on this report matches the expected test results on the voting results report. The third report, titled Logic and Accuracy Test LNA Testing Post-0 Report, shows that each machine and the election management system have been reset to 0, and they are now ready for operation in the election in both early voting and election day. The 0 report will also print when the poll workers power up the machine, so they can confirm that the machine is starting from 0 and sign the 0 tape. The equipment will be ready to start early voting, which starts tomorrow. Pickup will begin the day after the election. At this time, if the board has no questions, I ask that you certify the voting equipment for the Senate District 4 special primary and the Central Falls City Council Ward 4 special election, and the Central Falls special referendum to be held on July 8th. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Miguel. Any questions for Miguel? We have a motion.
Motion to certify the LNA testing for the primary and Senate District 4 in the Central Falls special election on Tuesday, July 8th, 2025.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, abstentions? The ayes have it. And as I understand it, we are going to skip over agenda item
Yes,
number 3.
correct.
Yeah, just for the record, Madam Chair,
Please.
the counsel for both parties had conflicts later in the afternoon, so they both requested a continuance of the hearing.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Moving to agenda item number 4, the board may vote to meet in executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5 subsection A subsection 4 and 17-25-5 subsection A subsection 7 subsection I to discuss and/or vote on possible violations of campaign finance laws in one campaign finance matter. Do we have a motion to meet in executive session?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Assuming not. We'll move into executive session at 5:03 PM. Welcome back, everyone. Do I have a motion to seal the minutes of executive session and resume open session?
So moved.
Second.
No one wants to make motions today. Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And are you
Yes,
reporting out?
I will, Madam Chair. One matter to report out. There was a presentation of an audit report by Mr. Thornton regarding a campaign finance activity of Jean Marie Napolitano for the period January 1, 2024 through March 31, 2025. Mr. Thornton presented a consent order for consideration by the board. After some discussion, the board adopted the consent order with a motion made by Mr. Scholes, seconded by Ms. Betancourt. All present here on the dais were present in the executive session and all voted in favor, none opposed. The motion was adopted.
Thank you, Ray. Do we have a motion? I don't think we have any more business. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned